Vintage Soviet kit radio build. Kiev 4 radio receiver, start 7229. I'm not sure what exactly that means. And this is for children 14 years and up, basically 14 years and older. You can buy these on eBay. There's quite a bit of them for sale under the Kiev 4 search, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone do a build video. This one looks like it was built on the 17th month of the 847th day of 1980, and you can see here 14 and up. And here's all the signatures, I guess, that the kit was complete. Now, I've built the Chinese kits on this channel before, and this is not super heterodyne. This is basically a TRF set. Okay. It's pretty big. Here are the instructions. We could use Google Translate on this if the printing is not too sloppy. Parts list. This is, this is pretty much all I'm going to need to build it. So we got all our resistors, 62 ohm, 10%. Got 2 of those. So we got parts list. We got our transistor identification, the rest of the parts list. We got the bamboo blants going on. How to read resistors. If you need to know how to read resistors, here's that. I'm going to do some cheating. Ferrite antenna. Here's our schematic. Right here. So this is long wave and medium wave, which is the AM broadcast band. I imagine all it's going to really get is KNX. It's basically just a crystal set with a whole bunch of gain. The neat thing about this is, I think where they got this right versus the Chinese kit radios is, well, the Chinese kit radios will perform better, and of course the Heath kit will kick the hell out of everything, but you don't have to align this. So a youngster can build this and they don't have to worry about cores they have to turn and screws they need to tighten. Here's the circuit board. Probably need to clean that off a little bit with some light steel wool and get the oxidation off of it. Now the seller included these electrolytics. The seller said the electrolytics were either bad or missing. The volume control. Here's our hardware. transistors and capacitors, diodes, resistors. It's weird that they try and teach you color codes when these resistors don't have color codes. Some wire, switch. Probably going to need some control cleaner sprayed in that. Is this a tuning capacitor right here? Oh wow, look at that. That is sexy. Boy, that's a nice ferrite antenna. Like I say, you can buy this off of eBay if you're either built or unbuilt. If you're so inclined to take on a project. Wow, look at that. Oh. I think we got some rubbage. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It looks like it was maybe damp. What we're going to do on this is we'll test, because this is from 1980, we will test every single component except things like the bar antenna. But every capacitor, every resistor, I mean, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I got my M tester and I got my fluke meter that I'll use to both identify the parts and check them. You know, you put this whole thing together and you get one of these electrolytics is dried out or something. This thing is, what, 40 years old? 42 years old. But it's nice because it's not Chinese and it's built. It's ridiculously heavy and overbuilt. It's not cheap and flimsy. Look at, it's actually got brass inserts for the screws. This is nice kit right here. This is a nice kit. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start with the circuit board. I'll just start loading the components on the circuit board. That's easy for me. This is just some steel wool and I'm trying to kind of clean up the oxidation on this board. I'm not questioning the weird layout of these traces. Yeah. One thing I do like about this is nothing is fragile. Everything is like heavy duty. It's, you know, it's more designed for the rough, crude touch of a young person rather than those Chinese kits are so delicate. You know, if you just touch them, look at them wrong, the traces peel off the board. This thing is heavy duty. And then I clean it off real good with some, well, in this case, brake cleaner, because I don't want conductive steel wool tracking, causing carbon tracking or whatever. You know, it's quite dirty, so yeah. Good to have this clean. So I guess these are your electrolytics right here. 10 volt, 10 microfarad, 10 volt, 20 microfarad, 6.3 volt, 50, 10 volt, 100, 16 volt, 200. For that would be 0.0047, 4700 picofarads. 0.022 microfarads, 0.033 microfarads. So we got 5 units of the 0.033. So this should be pretty easy to figure out, you know. Especially with the M tester. And I don't really consider this cheating. On this channel, this channel is mostly dedicated to repairing vintage TVs and radios, and I've been doing that on and off for the past 30 years or so, since I was in middle school. And so this to me, the electronics part of this is very simple. Basically assembling this is a fairly simple thing. This is an M tester. I think that came off of Banggood. Basically a parts identifier / tester. Let's see, what is this one? 16 volts at 200 microfarads. Of course, one lead is longer than the other, so it doesn't want to see what the M tester thinks of it. Not bad. A little bit high on the ESR. Let's try this one. This one's a 50 microfarad. Pretty close, a little bit high on the ESR though. I'd usually like to see the ESR on this tester be below an ohm, and on that one there be 0 ohms. This is one of the resistors. 6.2K. This is a 22 nanofarad, so 0.022. 1,000 nanofarads would be 1 microfarad. 100 nanofarads would be 0.1, and then 2 digits would be 0.0. I think I got that right. And it measures 23 nanofarads. Now here's one of the transistors. Did I put it in there right? No, I didn't. I got to get it over 1. I got to get it like that, so it's in 1, 2, and 3. Okay. It likes it. It is an NPN transistor. So yeah, it's just about identifying the parts and loading the board up. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to test each part before I put it in, because the thing's from 1980, and it's very interesting that all of these resistors don't have the universal color code on them. They're all just brown resistors. They probably have numbers on them, but in the manual here, they talk about, somewhere here, they talk about, yeah, they talk about color codes. You know, so what's the point, I guess, if you wanted to learn your colors in Russian? But yeah, there's no point to this, because these are not that type of resistor. So this says 4K7 on it. 4K7. So that should be 4.7K or 4700. don't know how accurate this thing is. Whatever. Okay, on the Fluke it measures 4.52. It looks like this crunchy speaker is just a regular 8-ohm speaker. Now I don't know if, I love how you do that and it starts picking up the voltage pulses from me moving it, but yeah, I don't know if this crunchy speaker is going to provide the sound quality that this radio deserves to deliver. This is how I'm loading the resistors. I just pick up a resistor. This is my method. I look at it through a magnifying glass. This one says K47. Get that there. It says K47. So I'm not quite sure what is K47. Is that 470 ohms? Let's take a look here. 480 ohms. So that's a 470 ohm resistor. So then what I do is I look on the parts list for 470 ohm resistor, and there it is right there. It is R6. Then I come over here and I find R6 on here. Right here is R6. Come over here, I find R6, which is right there. And then what I do is I load this into the holes for R6. And what I'll do is I'll load all the resistors in before I solder them. And I'll tell you, some of these I don't understand. I'm not familiar with this identification system. This one says M20, and I'm not sure what M20 is. So if you're going to build one of these, you better use a meter or something to just double identify, because these are not the typical color codes we're used to. So M20 is 200K, 199.5. So I'm going to say that's a 200K. $200K, R7 and 10. There's 2 of these in here. There are 18 resistors, and that includes the volume control, which I don't know where that is right now. I got to find it. But anyway, I installed them all, and you know, when you insert the last one and it's the right resistor, you have a pretty good idea that you've got them all in the right spot. Then what I did is I went through them starting with R1, and I checked them all individually with this meter just to double check. So I got like 3 levels of checking this over 3 times just to verify that I got all these resistors. There are 18 resistors here, so they're all in the right spot. And so now what I'll do is I'll solder them. There are really only 4 different types of capacitors. There's these are 22 nanofarads, so 0.022. These are 33 nanofarads. This is a 4N7. So what would that be? 4N7 would be 0.0047. And this is 0.5%, 5.6 picofarads, really? So that if that's what that is, that's so small that this won't even measure it. So the hardest thing here is by far the resistors would be for most people trying to build this, in my opinion. Yeah, see this, if this is really only a few picofarads, it's not going to read that. This, I don't think this thing will pick up anything below about 50. So, or maybe it's 20. So I think this 4N7 4700. There you go. As far as soldering goes, since this is a kit, I usually wouldn't talk about this. This is 6337, 3.3% flux. So this, because I work on a lot of older stuff, I use the 6337 and I use the higher flux. But I'm sure 6040 would work. I don't know how this is going to flow on this corroded board. We're going to find out right now. Kind of hard to do it with a tripod in the way. Yeah, it doesn't flow real good on this old board, but yeah, this kind of sucks. Doesn't flow real smooth. You have to let the flux. I mean, it's going to come out okay. It's just the board has got a lot of oxidation. Here's a tip. Do a better job cleaning this oxidation off than I did. Even using the higher flux solder, it's still, this is some of the crappiest soldering I've done. It didn't flow very well. I had to use so much heat to get the flux just to eat up the oxidation. You know, it's just not a good look. So yeah, clean this up better than I did. I think I'll do the 3 diodes next. Trying to do it the stuff that's on the bottom of the board and then work up. So they call those V, or that's their character, V. And there's how many of them? V8, V4, V3. It looks like there's 3 of them. Maybe that's really a D in Russian. Ah, wait, we got 4 here. No, those are transistors. Okay, here we go. 522, 3, V3, 4, and 8. They're all the same. Okay, good. We just have to make sure we get them in there the right direction. Which, that's going to be kind of fun because they got 3 lines on them. Oh boy. Well, I guess this tells us where the anode and cathode are. The way these appear to be labeled or marked is you have one bigger line than 2 smaller lines. Well, the smaller band would be the same as our diodes with just one band on one side. So the smaller band would go to the band here. The bigger band would be the arrow, the smaller band would be, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So does that make sense? How the bigger band is the arrow. I mean, intuitively, coming from the type of diodes that I grew up working with, it would be the opposite way, but I don't think this thing lies. Maybe I should get one of our diodes and double check it. Maybe if I just look at the instructions, it would agree with that. So the bigger line is the arrow, and then, yeah, okay. I know I'm calling anode and cathode arrow and line, but I'm just trying to make it simple. Yeah, the instructions are really good. Okay, now the transistors are starting to get a little bit confusing. They only show one in this package, which is a KT315. And they only show one KT315 here, which is V9. But I have I have 5 of those. We have a KT315B. I'm sorry, that's probably not. I'm calling that a B. Those are not Bs, but I'm going to call them a B because I'm a stupid, uneducated American. Oh, A and B. So I'm looking for, maybe this does make sense. I'm looking for, that's a B. I apologize to my Russian friends for being ignorant. I'm just calling it a B. That's a B. Okay, got it. That's the A looking symbol. Okay, I'm testing every component, every transistor before I put it in. And another thing I'll say about this is I love how the parts just fall right into the holes on the board. Everything is bent, it just plugs right in. There's no tweaking or... So anyway, my next thing is I got to figure out, and I'm kind of doing it just through process of elimination, but which I guess is a good thing. Let's see, what does this one say on it? This one says B. I go again, assigning English letters to Russian alphabet. B and A, let's see if they identify that here. No, they don't. Okay, let's see this one right here. This one says 310. Okay, here's a 310. Here it is, 310. Yes, 310. Okay, where does this one go? KT310. KT310. Oh boy, we got... Well, this one is KT310-7 with that little star looking thing. So I'm going to assume that's this one here. V11. So V11. There's not much left that I haven't. V10, V11. So it'll just plug right in here, but I'm going to test it first. Just make sure that the leads are in the right spot. Okay, we might have to open this up a little bit. I love my lead-based toys. PNP. So is that correct? That's a PNP. V11 is a PNP. V11 does in fact look like a PNP. Alright, I'm gonna call it for right now. I'm stuck down to these 2 transistors here. I'm gonna have to use a translator because what the markings that are on these are not shown, and probably if I got them reversed it probably wouldn't make one bit of difference, but after all the work making sure the resistors were right, I'd like to get it. So I'm at this point, I put that tubular ceramic capacitor in just because it was so obvious where it went. And so we got the diodes, resistors, and all but 2 of the transistors loaded. Moving along pretty quick here actually, so the hardware is going to be interesting for sure, because I don't read Russian, but that's part of the fun to figure this out, right? And then I guess wiring this up will be semi-entertaining. Probably test that. Might have to spray lubricate this, spray that with contact cleaner. And, oh, here's the variable resistor. I guess I could put that on there. That just goes right here. You can see what I mean by the parts just all fall onto the board. Very, very well done. Definitely like it. Maybe I should test this and make sure that the contacts haven't got dirty. I might need to spray that. So yeah, we're going together. It's a sort of a fun mind puzzle, sort of challenging but relaxing project. The last thing I need is another AM radio, but I like doing this stuff, and hopefully if you like it, you'll order one and build it too. They included these. I don't know why. We'll get to that when we do the capacitors. I believe I finally got to the bottom of the transistor identification, and this is a little bit confusing because this shows for the KT209, it shows this or two dots. Well, we have one with that symbol, and that little symbol means it's a military designated transistor. That little burst symbol in the upper right hand corner, that designates this as a military transistor. The confusing thing is this one has two dots on it. But I did some research mostly on eBay, and the KT209 is a military spec transistor. So this one here with the little diamond on it, this one has to be the KT209. I'm doing the ceramic capacitors now, and check out how this one's lopsided. See how it's shifted over to this side. It measures right on though. Okay, the disc capacitors are in, the resistors are in, the diodes are in, the transistors are in. Now I just got the electrolytics, everybody's favorite. And when I ordered the kit, they tell you that some of them are missing, so they give me some extra 10s and 22s. And it looks like, where are the electrolytics? Right here. Looks like we got 3 10s. 120, 150, 100. So the 3 10s and the 20 are here. And then this is the 50, 200, and 100. And I'll test them all before I put them in. All the electrolytics are installed, and they are polarity sensitive. They have to go in the right way, and you'll see there's a little positive on the board there. See that little positive? And of course the newer style are marked by the negative. The old Russian made ones are marked with the positive, so you have to watch that. You don't want to install these backwards. And I notice the date code on this stuff is 90. Not that that goes with these radios, but who knows. It's a date code on this one, 80. One looks like it's 8005. So one looks like it's 9002. So anyway, I think I'll put the volume control on. I have to give this thing an absolute A for ease of assembly. This thing is great. All the components fit perfect. The transistor leads were already pre-bent. I mean, this has really been nice to assemble. I know the lighting's not the best, so it looks like I need to pull the volume control off, maybe because it's hitting, and bend the leads more straight so it's back further on the board. Yeah, I think I got to bend these so they're straight vertical. They're tilted out like that. I need to bend them down. I guess the next step is to put on this beautiful antenna. I actually believe this is for a regular super heterodyne radio because it's got the oscillator coil there in the middle. And I guess we just kind of look at the picture here and follow the wires and put them in the appropriate hole. Of course, we also have this. I certainly can't read this. Google Translate doesn't really work on it because it's not clean. I mean, I could try it, but it's especially Google Translate really did not like this handwritten stuff. So I haven't run into a problem yet. Maybe Google Translate will work on this. I don't know. I think I'm better at just following pictures sometimes, so that's what I'm going to do. So this just slips on to here. Right. It's just, of course it's not going to work for the camera, but yeah, this just slips on like this, and then we just hook up the wires. Beautifully built. This is starting to look more like a radio. I'm going to clean this flux off when I get as much as I can soldered on. So I think the next thing to do is we'll go after the hardware, which what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to sort this out and then try and kind of reverse engineer it. Wow, even some of these screws are corroded. This must have got wet, so let me do that. There's quite a bit here. Okay, you just have to, I guess, use the logical deduction method with this. So we have 3 of the long screws. I'm going to assume those hold the board to the case. This holds the band switch. We have these small ones. I don't know what these 2 little tiny nuts are for. These 3 things are obviously for the external antenna connection. Not sure what that's for. These have got to be speaker hold downs. We have 2 little tiny screws here. You know what? These have to go to those little nuts. So, and then we got this, which is they really got this kit right. There was really a lot of thought put into this. This is our tuning condenser for changing the station from KNX to KNX to KNX, and we got our knob here. You notice it's just 1 through 10. Gonna say this is hookup wire. This is our band switch. So this goes to here. This goes to the circuit board. Okay. So let me just start. Okay, obviously these screws hold this to the circuit board. Alright, very good. That'll be the last thing we put on. That way we can clean the flux. So, yeah, it seems fairly intuitive. This, I don't know. Well, I guess that goes there somehow. Oh, I get it. This goes through the case and this presses on the back to hold. Okay, I get it. I get it. Goes like this. This goes through the case like this, and then this little thing presses on. Be easier to do this without the camera, but you get the idea. This presses over the knob to keep the knob from falling off. Just a little brake parts cleaner to kind of, I don't want this dripping on the volume control. I need to get a vise here. Little hydrocarbons in the sky for your environmental pleasure. So cleaning it really lets you inspect your work, you know, and these oxidized traces were really preventing me from doing decent soldering, but it looks okay. I don't see any bridges. That was the main thing. I think the next thing I'm going to do is test this switch because it is really corroded. I had trouble soldering to those pins. Yeah, it looks like it's working. When I go from there to there, it goes up to 11 ohms. It's 11 ohms. That's 0. And I think I'm going to be using it on 0 because, yeah, definitely. Because we don't have long wave here. And, you know, with it open, it increases the coil size for long wave. Now to put the tuning cap on. So this should almost, well, it should just turn on and work. I got this assembled. I just got to solder the wires. I mean, this is all very intuitive the way this goes together, even though that looks a little clinky dinkler. It's what it is. Very nicely built. So let's see what happens here. I'm running it off of 9 volts. Uses 6 pin light batteries. So that is let me do it like this. I'm going to turn it on. That's a good sound.
He's a star. It's just, I don't think anybody even thinks about Michelle Garcia. And he does put up some decent numbers. Okay, let's move on now. Time for you to sing about the closers. Flying Lila Freeney were reported a fire now, 5 northbound at Stadium Way.
You can hear KNX is just smeared across the whole thing. Okay, what's...
Trailer brakes and tires on fire. That means the trailer's not moving. It's slow from Lake.
Okay, so this is all crusty on the inside. Of course, because everything's corroded, but let me put it together. And maybe if I work it enough. So that's a continuous... That doesn't have a stop in it, it's just continuous. So, yeah, I just need to rotate the hell out of that to clean it. Too bad I put the knob together already, because the knob's got the detent. But it works.
So you think? I think they're gonna. Well, we should have sunshine through most of the rest of the afternoon. Upper 60s in the beaches, lower to mid. Upper 70s in the valleys. It's warm tomorrow, and again the same thing with the clouds in the morning. And the
I need to
sunshine in
just
the
put a
afternoon.
drill on that and spin it for 5 minutes. Well, this thing wasn't working, so I came up with the bright idea. Oh, let me take it apart and clean it. Yeah, that's not happening very well. I think I got it back together. It's just a stack of plates, washers, and paper. You never want to spray anything in these because they are paper wafers, separators. We are all assembled here, except I'm still using my battery and not the AA's, but there it is. And unfortunately, my attempt to clean the corrosion out of the tuning capacitor was only mildly successful. So it's still very flaky. The selectivity is about what you would expect from you know, a TRF set. It's decent. No, not even decent. It's a 1 out of 10. You know, but it doesn't have IF, so it's very loud. I'll give it that. It's very loud. It's very well built, very easy to assemble. As far as a kit goes, I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. It was excellent. So anyway, we'll do a little demo here, and I'm on KFI 640 right now.
Weird deal when it comes.
And you'll notice you can hear KNX in the background through everything.
The harshest fan base you've ever dealt with as a player. It could be college, it could be pro. Yeah, pro fan is really, really rabid. I would say when you play for another team and you come into, at the time, Oakland. I mean,
$156. Okay. And you actually have a pretty good possibility of not running out of money.
Okay.
What do you think, Blair? I think that
This is not a playground. This is a street. It's a neighborhood. We're not Hollywood Boulevard. This we want our customer
brawls game. They had it
this weekend.
The business owners said they had a whole lot of so far they have not dumping the biker takeovers. They are afraid that there could be a terrible accident soon. An Anaheim man suspected in a series of BB gun shootings on the 91 freeway has been charged with attempted murder.
The 3 counts stem from an attack on a Tesla.
So the speaker, I guess, cleaned itself out. Maybe it was just had some rust in the gap, because it sounds good now. But yeah, the tuning condenser really, I don't know. I did my best to clean it, but yeah, it's not working right. It's flaky.
Chevy Trailblazer. Prosecutors say and related items were found in the SUV. Rodriguez, who's also facing 3 counts of assault likely to produce great bodily injury, is due to be arraigned next week. Have you enjoyed those too, especially in those very first jobs, no matter what you did back in the day?
Yeah.
But whether you loved or hated that very first job, there was probably a shock when you open your
would be over at Maxi Morales, the seasoned MLS veteran, would be over it with the right foot. Plenty of options right along the penalty spot for NYCFC. Dangerous opportunity here, 6 minutes.
and there was some guy thrown down in like a Tom Rathman jersey. Like it's a preseason football game, and these guys are throwing smoke at each other. During the game.
The trauma that this guy has caused the family is absolutely outrageous.
Sweeping the pot of the reward fund is happening across Orange County.
And that reward now up to 3. Drive. There's a 3-car injury crash. That is making things jammed up from Euclid. So we'll check in with Tim on that in 4 minutes.
Now is the time to get yourself into a new vehicle at Kia of Carson. Fresh inventory is flowing in daily. Check them out at KiaofCarson.com or off the 405 at the Carson exit.
Oh boy, now it's swarming season. If you've been thinking about having your home or business inspected for termites, the time to call is now. It's for Pacific Coast. First paycheck you, Greg. It's like, who's this Micah? Who's Social Security? I don't have to worry.
Thrown in by I think Lee's like a little.
So it gets like four or five stations. Let's see. Let's try here. Come on.
Exactly what we're working with. You get all your find out your options, and then an educated decision. If you do go ahead with the treatment, Pacific Coast Termite uses orange oil and Altoset, so that means you don't have to pack up or move out. Also, you get 10%
Your
off.
5 years, 10 years,
Guaranteed.
he'll still
So call
have the
today.
income
Number is
he was going to have from his
National level, taxes are going to go up, and that's one of the reasons why you want to look at vehicles that will allow you to save on taxes, like having Roth IRAs, converting your IRAs, maybe doing Roth 401ks. But yeah, taxes is going to be a huge issue in the future.
For a lot of us, Greg, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of our listeners are out there, they've been saving maybe since that very first job, and things like 401ks, IRAs, all these years. How do we start getting some of that money in those traditional...
Let's head out to some showings!
Shifting that to some of those Roth options you mentioned there?
Well, the sooner the better.
He's going to have to come off the field just momentarily in front of the fourth. Series is over. They've been swept, and we all
You can do with that extra bucket of money.
Of course.
See, I like 5 stations. You know, hopefully this thing will get better as it wears in. If I keep using it, the contacts will clean in it. It's basically a stack of brass plates and paper inside. Yeah, I'm happy with it. It's a good kit. It's not super heterodyne, but it's will be good to listen to KNX on.
Off all the best brands. And 0% financing for 36 months. Free payment.
Plus, save $500 on temper adjustable sets and 15% on all Casper mattresses. So this Memorial Weekend, trust your sleep to sit and sleep.
Hey, Drew, you want to come over for a burger?
I thought you'd never ask.
Goodyear tires keep vehicles that are thousands of pounds traveling at high speeds firmly connected to the road for thousands of
Anyway, there's the build of the Kiev 4 kit radio. Okay, so what kind of batteries does this take? Because it clearly shows 3 batteries here. This schematic does not give any voltages. I guess I just noticed that, like way after the thing is fully built. I mean, this clearly shows 6 batteries. And it's typical for the Soviet stuff to run on 9 volts, so what am I missing here? Power supply, 6 elements. A332. Power supply, 6 elements. A332. What is an A332? The receiver remains operational when lowering supply voltage to 5.4. The duration of the receiver from it looks like 2 18650s will fit in here perfect. So 18650s it will be. I'll just solder them together and attach them in there, and they'll probably last damn near the life of the radio. Radio is using probably on average 50 milliamps, so do the math.